Hey, we all know that proper incentives drive success. I mean, that's how you get the big wins in your team. I see teams all the time failing at this. But today we're going to talk about real incentives that will motivate your team to do great things. Sometimes you have to burn the ships. So let me jump behind the computer. Let's get into the lesson for today. And remember, it's never too late to burn your ships and motivate your team to huge success. So I'm jumping out of here, going back over there behind the computer. Be with you in 2 seconds.
All right, we're back behind the computer, ready to get into this great discussion. My question to you is, are you willing to burn the ships? Now, this sounds insane, but everyone must understand the importance and impact of the right motivation. Your motivation must result in the desired outcome. I mean, that makes sense to me. Motivation and outcomes. You see, I believe that bold leaders who understand how to properly motivate their team to achieve the intended results always win. Yep, I said always. If you don't understand how to build incentives that motivate your team to reach your goals, you will fail. There is no doubt. You see, Seth Godin expertly addresses this in his Startup podcast. If you haven't taken the time to listen to the Startup Series podcast, you need to make it a priority today. So let's start with a little history lesson. In 1519, the Spanish explorer and conquistador Hernando Cortez decided that he wanted to seize the treasure that the Aztecs had been hoarding. He took 500 soldiers and 100 sailors and landed his 11 ships on the shores of the Yucatan. Despite the large army under his command, he was still vastly outnumbered by a huge and powerful empire that had been around for over 600 years. Some of his men were unconvinced of success, and being loyal to Cuba, they tried to seize some ships to escape. They wanted to get away from the fight. They were scared. Cortez heard about the plot and captured the ringleaders. He wanted to make sure that the remainder of his men were completely committed to his mission and quest for riches. So he did something that seemed completely insane to his team. Cortez gave the order to scuttle and burn his own ships. His men resisted, wondering how they would ever get home. And his answer was this: if we are going home, we are going home in their ships. The path forward was clear for Cortez. All or nothing, 100% commitment. The option of failure was gone. Conquer as heroes or die. The ships were sunk. He kept a single ship to send back the Royal Fifth. Basically, the king's portion of Spain claimed 20% of all treasures. By doing this, the level of commitment of his men was raised to an extreme level, much higher than anyone could have imagined. Him burning the ships set the tone and incentive to win the war. Incredibly, they succeeded in this unlikely feat. In 600 years, no one else has been able to conquer the Aztecs and plunder their riches. They were able to do it simply because there was no choice, no fallback. The ships were gone. The only alternative for their team was death. So my question to you is, what is the one thing you want your business to accomplish in the next day, next month, or next year? You need to specifically define the objective, then ask yourself, how do I motivate the team to reach this specific objective? You know, it's interesting. In World War II, our nation defined an overarching and highly challenging objective to win the largest war we'd been in yet. Basically, the objective was to win the war. While this should be the objective of every conflict, the incentive does not always reinforce this objective. In World War II, our leaders nailed it. I mean, they hit the nail right on the head. Soldiers were sent into war with a clear incentive that focused on the objective. When you win the war, you get to go home. When you win the war, you get to go home. You don't go home early. You don't go home until the enemy is defeated. Now, let's fast forward to both Vietnam and Operation Enduring Freedom. There was no clearly defined objective. If there was, it was never clearly communicated to the soldiers, seamen, and airmen engaged in the conflict. To this day, I am not exactly sure what the goal in Afghanistan is, but I do know that the current incentives will not ensure victory. The incentive for soldiers and airmen alike is simple. If you survive your tour of duty, you get to go home. The team's focus is survival, not victory. Now, this is a very simplistic view of conflict over the last few decades, but the incentives reinforces my experience during my time in the Middle East. Crews were focused on getting home. Everyone wanted to win the war and end the conflict, but our overriding incentive was to survive and go home. We could tell you on any given day how many weekends we had left in our deployment cycle. Seth Godin clearly states the importance of appropriate incentives and motivation in his Startup School podcast. He discusses a specific example in reference to company equity. You hire a new employee, and as part of his contract, he or she wants equity in the company. How do you incentivize this equity swap to ensure success? Seth's solution, he traded equity for sales. 50 sales equaled fully invested to the new employee's equity. Each sale ensured a portion of equity. This one thing established a winning scenario for both the company and the new hire. If they succeed, your sales funnel is established. If they don't, you only give up a small portion of equity for their work and can shift your focus to those who can most benefit the company. Seth's incentive promoted the business objective. But unfortunately, many companies vest equity over time. This is an epic failure. Do you think this model benefits the company? I don't. Leaders who invest employees over a period of time set up a system that does not support the company's goal. You have a bunch of people living in cubicles, making it day to day. I mean, is their goal to keep an employee for so many years, even if they don't perform? The individual is only motivated to stay in the position long enough to get vested, then sell their position or just ride it out until the company valuation meets their ultimate needs. They are not specifically motivated to improve the company. Many times I have seen organizations that do not understand the importance of both objectives and incentives that support the goals. Historically, those organizations have floundered in complete mediocrity. They lack sound leadership that understands how to reach their ultimate business goals. So, what is the solution? And how do you ensure success? Look, you got to define your one thing, your overarching objective. Now, niche it down. Establish intermediate weekly goals that lead you on a path to reach that ultimate goal or objective. Look at your incentives and ask 3 questions. What is the expected result of the incentive? What other results will occur based on this incentive? Will this incentive motivate the team to reach the goal? Now, develop some simple metrics to track your progress. Make them visible to the entire team. Put them on the freaking wall. When they walk in, they know exactly how they're doing every day. You know, one of the things I did love about metrics and valuation in college was Coach DeBerry put the depth chart on the wall. You knew where you stood every day and how much harder you had to work to get there. Put those metrics out there for everyone to see. You see, everyone needs feedback. And something as simple as publicly displaying the company's metrics lets each division see their progress in comparison with the other teams inside the organization. Why do you think coaches punish the entire team for failure of a team member? And in the same sense, they reward the entire team for team wins. Take a carrot and stick approach and remember to reward more than you punish. This instills the confidence to win. You must ensure you set the team up to win while developing your intermediate goals. You got to remember, it's all about the team, always all about the team. The single most important question you can ask yourself as you step into your next year is, do your current incentives motivate the team to reach the goal? Look, we want to see you be successful. We want to see you win in every way possible. So if you need help, check us out, www.exon.co. And with that, we are out of here.